Funny thing is that I was thinking about starting a channel and making a video about Yume Nikki just when Toby Fox interview appeared. So I decided to make that video anyways, but updating some info thanks to the interview. For those wondering if this channel is going to be about Yume Nikki only, no, it's gonna be not. But for those who want more about Yume Nikki, later will be my last video on the topic. And for the people who never play Yume Nikki, it's a game that lets you explore dreams from a hikikomori called Madotsuki. Those dreams are weird and the community made the principal objective to figure out what is going on. So if you haven't played the game yet, there's going to be major spoilers ahead. Like I said in my previous video, it's for free on Steam. Why is Yume Nikki so popular, so influential, and yet so niche? Well, I do believe it's because how the game's made, with no text and only dreamlike places with only music to make emphasis on its message with no real explanation. Some of them are so relaxing, other ones are mysterious, and some of them are real nightmare feel when used correctly. It's an entire experience and it's different for everyone who plays it, but when the game ends, when you collect all the facts and put them in the Nexus, the scene that is awaiting you, it's exactly the same for everyone else. Why did they do that? Why did Madotsuki took their own life? Maybe they had reasons to live for, but we aren't exactly sure. And that's why Yume Nikki became so popular in the first place. Everyone can take the subtle and not so subtle image the game shows us to explain why Madotsuki jumped. There's a lot of theories about what happened. Theories that disprove other theories, and theories that merges other theories, making bigger theories. As for myself, I do have my personal views on what happened too, but I'm not talking about any of that on this video. This video is going to be about Yume Nikki's history and influences. Because even if we aren't sure about the story in the game, sure we have a story outside it, and we will cover it. Well, if we are going to do this in chronological order, we will need to look at what inspired Kikiyama to create Yume Nikki. If you are knowledgeable enough about this game, you will go back to 1998 when Asmic Ace Entertainment released LSD Dream Emulator. Now confirmed by Toby Fox interview that actually was an inspiration for Yume Nikki. Then why isn't LSD the niche game we all look for inspiration for surreal and dark atmospheres in indie games? Well, that's because LSD only came out in Japan, so there wasn't a real legal way to play it on the rest of the world. LSD was very experimental, and places kinda feel dreamlike sometimes, but in the other side feels so random and incoherent between places. So in the end, I can understand why people prefer Yume Nikki over LSD. Yume Nikki is a more refined game. It has some motifs, even if we don't know the real story or what happened in Yume Nikki. We can agree that Yume Nikki has more than one allegory to sexuality, pregnancy, and maybe even to assault. We have trains in more than one place, car and train accidents, and even places that makes tribute to very surrealist artists like Picasso, Salvador Dali, and Taro Okamoto. But if we are looking for real-life inspiration, we can go back to 700 before Christ. Yes, I'm not even kidding, because something that is in almost all the game is the quote-unquote Aztec image, being one of the most known, the Rave Aztec Monkey. Maybe this is something that might surprise you, but this monkey isn't from Mexico, but from Peru. Being specific on the cultures from Peru that inspired Yume Nikki were the Barracas, Nazca, Pachacamac, Chimu, and Inca. If you look at the Barroca mantles, you will soon see the similarities between these mantles and image from the game. So Kikiyama's inspiration on this culture wasn't just something like, oh, I want my game to feel a little Andean, so I'll just add up a random image from different pre-Columbian cultures. If you study all these images, every single one comes from Peru. So it was done like this on purpose, and we can assume that Kikiyama knows about Peruvian culture and history. But why Peru? Most people thought about the Aztecs. Why not Mexico? Why not any other country from Latin America? Maybe Peru having a close relationship with Japan and having a massive immigration from both sides has something to do. Maybe Kikiyama is a Nikkei Perujin. Maybe that's why Kikiyama is so secretive about their identity. After all, Japanese people tend to be discriminatory towards gaijin. But we can say for sure, this is just me making assumptions. I will not discuss too much about how exactly those cultures inspired Yume Nikki, but it's kinda sad that this info gets kinda overlooked when people make theories, so I really wanted to take this part on the table. Once we know what inspired Yume Nikki, what's next? Well, the version that is on Steam, it's 0.10a, but that means there are older versions, isn't it? There actually are a couple of them, from 0.04 to 0.09. Sadly, we don't have the 0.05. Who managed to retrieve all those versions that were lost media? All of this was thanks to La Investigación Yume Nikki, especially to Eloy Yume Nikki Fangamer and Gatobot. Eloy even released a book that I have to read to see if I can gather more information. But for now, we have to know that those two users made possible to have an archive about how were the old versions. For example, characters like Monoko and Monoe didn't exist until version 0.07, with also the debut of the White Desert, and Uboa from the version 0.08. And Masada didn't exist until version 0.10, so thanks to those versions we know that major characters didn't exist until later versions. Versions from 0.00 to 0.03 are lost media up to date, but we have possible 0.00 image from Kikiyama's profile from Players Music eClub. And yes, Kikiyama used to make music before making Yume Nikki. Here's some samples of what they did. Another thing we can deduce from older versions of this game is that version 0.00 probably had 20 effects, but only probably, because the version we have to prove that it's 0.04. But what interests me more is that there isn't a door on this image. So, in the original first version, Matotsuki was trapped in a room with a door. That gives more reason to jump out the balcony, but my biggest question is there an ending in the 0.0 version? Probably we never know. As far as we know, even the 0.04 has the same ending. Thanks to Toby Fox's interview, we know that Kikiyama didn't make any other games before Yume Nikki. But now we know that there are other older versions, so Yume Nikki isn't a game that was made on just one try. It needed a lot of versions to be what it is now. If anyone wants to analyze the old versions in deep detail, I'll put the links in the description. Now that we have talked about what happened before the creation of Yume Nikki and the different versions it had, now we can talk about how influential it became to other games. There is a chance you didn't know about this game before this video. You may be asking why this niche video game is so influential. Probably you never heard of it. Well, Yume Nikki inspired a lot of surreal and horror games like Eve, The Witch House, Mad Father, and those games inspired other video games like N, made by Wrong, and it managed to recreate the feeling of those games. It also inspired games like Off, which inspired Undertale. Also, in his interview with Kikiyama, Toby Fox confirmed that also Yume Nikki inspired him. I do personally think that Cave Story also inspired Undertale, but I'll talk about that on another video. The point is that there's a lot of indie games inspired by Yume Nikki, and those games inspire other games, so there's a chance that if you're making a game, it might be inspired directly or indirectly by Yume Nikki. But thinking about it, it's obvious that Yume Nikki inspired Undertale. That can be seen in Webdin's Gaster and the similarity with Uboa. But the battle system and repercussions of your actions seems to be more inspired by Mother and Off. But to be fair, Yume Nikki was also highly inspired by Mother in some places too. And I can see why someone will inspire their games in Mother. It's a pretty revolutionary game for the time it was released. To end this segment with some fun but useless fact, there's people on Steam who believe that Yume Nikki was an Undertale ripoff, just because it was uploaded on Steam on 2018. There's another wave that Yume Nikki created. The Yume Nikki fan games are so common that out there are hundreds if not thousands of fan games inspired by Yume Nikki, where probably dozens of them are now lost media. Some popular names are Me, Answer Prayers, Yume Nikki, the one nobody should talk about but everyone does anyways, but I think the most popular fan game created by only one person is That Flow, a gore Yume Nikki fan game that has more sensitive content and it's darker on every aspect. This game is so popular that it's beloved by most of the community. There's also Yume Nikki fan games that directly use characters on other genres like Yume Nikki Genso, a Metroidvania hack-and-slash game, or Dream vs. Dream, a Yume Nikki fighter game covered better by 04Doxys on a video I'll link in the description, or Yume Card, but I believe that one is actually lost media. But I said it was created by one person, because the biggest Yume Nikki fan game is Yume Nikki, also called by the English community as Yume Tuki. It is a collective fan game created to fans by fans, and adds hundreds of maps. It's the definitive Yume Nikki experience, especially if you play it online. There's so many different places created by different authors that you can be in comfy and pretty places to others that are weird or even scary. Talking about Yume Tuki will take like an entire other video, so for now it's all we are going to talk about Yume Tuki. But something important to say about this game is that after the release of Yume Tuki, Rosencraft created the board Uboa-chan as a joke on 2009. From there, even more fan games were created and theories were more spread. This game also inspired musicians and artists alike, Gobo being one of the most known, and someone who keeps the Yume Nikki community alive. And different media content was created just from this video game. People, after acknowledging the existence of Yume Nikki, started trying to figure out the story behind it, and wondering what happened to Kikiyama, and even there was people believing that Kikiyama was dead. Eventually Kikiyama did show up, and for everyone who was involved in this fandom, this was the equivalent to knowing that One Piece is real.
Can we get much higher?
What the hell was that? After that, some derivative Yume Nikki products came out. Merchandise like plushes and CD albums. Even there was also a light novel and a manga. Fortunately, not written by Kikiyama. And thank God, because both works add a lot of interpretation by their respective writers. To me, feels more like a headcanon than everything else. If you're interested, I'll put some reviews from other users that read those works. After a long time, also we got a countdown on Kikiyama's page, and everyone freaked out because nobody would expect that Kikiyama was going to make more projects. How did this happen? Well, the game was made with RPG Maker, and sometimes Plagism and Kadokawa contact all creators to make remakes of their games, like happened to Eve and The Witch House. Even Ao Oni got a movie. Probably was something similar with Kikiyama. When the countdown ended, the game Yume Nikki Dream Diary was released. In my opinion, that was a weird name decision, because Yume Nikki already means Dream Diary, which is confusing, especially in the English community, because there was some people calling the game Yume Nikki Dream Diary. But well, how was this game? Well, it sucked. Everything that made it interesting in the original was the exploration, and Dream Diary is a puzzle game that makes the game more linear and limited. But that isn't the worst part. I wish it was. We were told that this game was a reimagination, but when the game starts, this happens. ¡Ay, conche tu madre, weón! This was the worst trolling that could have happened to the franchise, because this makes Dream Diary a sequel and rewrites this game to tell you that everything that happened in the original game was a dream, and that Madotsuki kept dreaming after going to Masada's spaceship. It has mixed reviews on Steam. Despite all of that, all the comics, novels, and sequels that seek to rewrite the original story. But the original Yume Nikki is there, and the question stays there. Why did Madotsuki jump? Why Kikiyama did this game? Why did they stop making versions? At least to me, it's a reflection about the Japanese society and to show the societal and personal struggles that leads to taking the decision of taking your own life. That's why the protagonist is called Madotsuki. That's not a real Japanese name. It just means window. And that's what Madotsuki is. A window that lets you see how Japanese society affects someone's psyche. And probably that's why Kikiyama stopped making versions, because making a game about that is exhausting. For those who made it to this point of the video, have a nice dream, and thank you for watching this video. If you like it, please consider subscribing. That will boost my will to make more videos.